Hello there, it's Jan from JB Crafts, and I'm back today with another project for my Stamp With Me series that I'm running for September. So just throughout this month I've concentrated, and the main focus of the tutorials is stamping techniques. And if you want to go back, if this is the first one that you've come across, we've already covered colouring with alcohol markers, colouring with a watercolour medium. We've done a heat resist technique, heat emboss resist, and then this week I wanted to focus on masking. So yeah, enabling you to create some kind of dimension with your stamps, and you can do this with any stamps, any images that you've got. It's just a case of bringing something to the foreground and popping other things to the background, and it's a really simple technique but very, very effective. So this is the card that I've made today, and this is actually for a friend that's retiring. So I just wanted to go a little bit more down a masculine theme today, using the browns and I added the blue in. It was going to be fairly monochromatic, but I added the blue in towards the end because it was looking very, very, very samey. So just that little touch of blue here and there just to lift it. And yeah, this is what I've come up with. So it is a shop bought card from a 7x7 pack. But just worth mentioning that the cards are only 6 3/4 inches square. It's usually the envelopes that have the measurement when you buy them ready made. And then I've just stamped my sentiment inside there. Lots of my brown vintage photo ink just to make it all sort of a little bit more vintagey. And yeah, this is what I'm going to show you how to do. We're going to focus on the actual stamping part. I've got a lot of the rest of it prepped ready, but this is the area that I actually wanted to focus on today. So we'll pop that one over to one side, and I'm going to do the stamping part of it first. So I've actually got a set of stamps from my own stash, and I've had this one a long time. I think it was from Amazon. You know that I love all my sort of tickets and ephemera sort of things when I'm actually stamping, but I've actually made the tickets the focal point on this particular card, and I chose the straightforward sort of ticket here. I've got a couple of smaller ones, and then I've got this one here as well. So I hope that's not causing too much glare on the camera for you. And I've got those in my stamping platform at the ready. So that's the product there that we're actually going to be using. I'm going to bring in my stamping platform here. And I've done a couple of things in advance. So I've got my stamps out ready. I'm going to be stamping with an alcohol proof ink because I want to use my alcohol markers to colour the tickets in. And this is a Spectrum Noir alcohol proof dye ink, and I'm going to use the brown just because I was going along that, as I say, monochromatic theme to start with. And I've got a piece of smooth stamping card, and this is a little bit wider than I want it to be currently. It measures 6 inches in height, and I'm going to trim it down to fit the project. So we'll pop that in here, and I'll put my magnet on in a second. All I've done with my pencil is I've measured the halfway mark at the top and the bottom and just drawn myself a guideline for the central line, and then I've also marked halfway between the 6 inches. So this is at sorry, this is 6 1/4, is it 6 1/4? I need to yeah, it will be 6 inches when I've actually finished. So yeah, I've just marked the central point here so that we can sort of get that main ticket, that focal one here, right in the center. So I'm going to pop the magnet on there for the time being. We will pop this right. No, I'm working a little bit further over just so that I've got some room to work on here. And then I've got my tickets at the ready, and I've created some masks, and I use my big roll. It's going to last me a while, this masking tape. This is from Crafter's Companion, and all you do is pull a piece out, I pop it on my stamping platform and stamp the stamps on there. You can use sticky notes for this, anything like that. And I've just stamped them with the same ink, and then it's just a case of cutting these out. And I tend to just err on cutting the little tiny bit of line off the line art as well. So I'm just cutting literally a fraction inside the line art there. It's really difficult to see, but there is a little bit of it left on the masking paper there. And this helps us to line it up right inside that stamped image when we come to do our masking. So I can just trim the edges off here, and I've got a mask for my main central stamp, and then I've got 2 each of the longer ones here at the ready. And then the last one I don't actually need a mask for. I didn't bother with this one at the back because we're not going to be stamping over it. So essentially with masking, whatever you want to be in the foreground is the one that you're going to start with. And my central one here, I want to be right slap bang in the middle and to the front of my stack of tickets here. So I'm going to get that one positioned pretty much central. I've used that little midway mark that I popped on in pencil, and I'm just centering it between the 2 elements here. And then we can get that one stamped out. So I've got my ink at the ready. I'm going to ink this up with the brown, and then we'll get that one stamped down into the middle there. Okay, perfect. And then I'm just going to give that one a little clean off with my cloth there, pop that one back up there, and then we're going to take the first mask and we're going to cover this one up so that anything that we stamp now is going to effectively look as if it's behind it. So all I'm going to do is lay this over the top and get it lined up the best I can. And I tend to, as I say, I've trimmed it so that it fits almost inside that stamped image there. And just make sure it's as straight as you can get it there and it's covered. So then we can go to the next set of stamps. So I'm going to take my first class one here, and I'm going to go slightly over it. And this is why we've masked it now, because if I stamp this on top of the first one, you're going to get the outline of this particular stamp on that first one. This way, it's going to look as if it's tucked behind. So if you haven't come across this technique before, it's a really easy one to do, but creates a really nice effect when it's complete. So that one's going to go here, like so. Excuse me. And then I'm going to clean that one and just bring it a little bit lower down. Because this middle one's still covered up, just make sure that your stamps are the right way. And I'm going to pop that one as if it's been tucked underneath that front one again here at the front. And again, ink it up and get that one stamped down ready. Okay, so again we can give that one just a clean off with the cloth, pop that one back, and then I'm going to bring in my next set of masks. So I've got that same stamp that I've done on my masking paper, and again I'm now going to cover these ones, and as I say, I want to try and get them as straight as I can, and then we're going to over stamp again, so it will then send those ones backwards. So if ever you've used your computer to manipulate images and you've used the Word system, there is a system in there that allows you to send layers to the back or bring layers to the forward. It's a little bit like that, but we're actually doing this with stamps. So I'm going to take my next one, and again I'm just going to do it as if they're all tumbling across the page there. And because we've got that last one covered, we know that this is then going to push to the back again. So we're sending it backwards behind. This bit's going to be tucked behind the mask. Okay, and give it a little clean. I always clean them in between because when I reposition it, I don't want it to transfer the ink onto here. So I'm just going to move that one up for a second. This one's covered, so we can then bring this down again as if they're all tumbling along, and get that one stamped out. And you can do this. This looks great with scene, to do scene building as well. So if you want the trees in the background and, you know, sort of maybe if you're doing a new home card, put the home at the front and then pop the trees as if they're sort of behind the house and things like that. As I say, lots of different ways to do it. So that's that one done. And then we're going to take our last set of masks here, and I'm going to cover that last image up and the same at the bottom, and we're going to do our final set of stamping there. So I've got all the ones covered up that I now want to push backwards, and then I'm just going to take my last little ticket here and get that one in place. And again, I'm using that central line to try and get them as central as possible on that design. So inking it up, give it a press down, and then I'm just going to give it a clean, and we'll move that down to that bottom area, and that's my stamping complete then. So this one's going to come right down to the bottom, and again just making sure that we're fairly central on that little pencil line. And when I'd done my colouring, you couldn't really see much of the line under the colouring. I just rubbed it out at the top and bottom. So that's my inking done. I can put that to one side now, pop that onto there, and then we've got the reveal. And this is always the fun part, because you get to see the effect. At the moment it just looks like a bit of a mess, to be honest, but you'll see the idea of it once we get these masks out of the way. So I'm just going to go back half in the order that we put them on, and I tend to keep these with my stamp set, so that if you want to use them again, you'll get several uses out of them before they look very inky and sort of not much use anymore. So I usually put these on a spare piece of cardstock and just pop them into the stamp set. And you can see there now how we've created that lovely sort of cascade of tickets, and they all look as if they're tucked underneath that central one there. So that's the stamping there. We'll get that one out of the way now. I've already stamped my sentiments so that they're good to go. And then I used my alcohol markers to do some colouring. And this was I had a look at all the different browns that I had, and this was sort of the colour palette that I chose. Now, some of these are tri-blend marker. Well, they're all tri-blend markers, but some of them are brush markers and some of them are tri-blends, purely because of the colours. I had some colours in one and some in the other. So what I did then, I've got my earth brown, which is my darkest shade. Then I've got the gold brown blend. Then I've got muted brown, which just happens to be an straightforward tri-blend. And then I've got the tan. And I chose the brush markers. I have got the colours in the other markers, but because they're sort of nice areas to colour in, the brush marker lays the colour down quicker. So I'm not going to do the whole of this. I have got it sort of well underway because the colouring does take a little while. But if I take my tan blend, I'd start up here at the top. All I've done with these is lay colour down into them with that lightest shade. And again, I'm not going to dwell on this too much, because right at the beginning of this series, at the beginning of September, we actually looked at colouring with alcohol markers. So I thought I'd just do a little bit today just to show you how I've shaded it. So where this one's overlap, there would definitely be shade from here, and then I'm just going to flick in. And that's the other beauty of having the brush markers, that this technique is easy to do from either side, like so. And I normally turn my artwork round so that I can, because I'm right-handed, I can flick better that way than I can coming in this way, like so. And then I'm just going to take that light blend again and just smudge that edge, just to get it all blended in, and then leave it. The beauty of alcohol markers is that you need to let the alcohol evaporate before you see the best of the shading. And then we'll do the next one, which is the muted brown, and then I'll show you the one that I've already coloured in. So again, just laying that colour down, and I'm not too worried about what the first coat looks like, because we always do so much shading over the top. If you're not at that level of colouring, you can just do one layer, what I call flat colouring, just one layer like so. There's no hard and fast rule about how you should colour. And if you're not bothered about the alcohol markers, you could always stamp your tickets onto coloured card and then cut them out and stack them. You would get the same kind of idea with them. You could use your pencil crayons, you could do these in a waterproof ink and use your watercolours. So again, lots of different ways to do them. So I'm just going to use those colours, blend in the edges there. And then the last one's always the lightest shade to just blend it in. All right, so that's a couple of the colours. I've used the tan blend. This is the very lightest one of the tan. And then I've used the muted brown here in this one. And then I went through, and if I bring you this one in that I've actually coloured in, you can see that we've come through all those different colours, those 4 shades of brown there, and coloured them in. So I'm going to use this one, and I've actually cut it down to measure 6 inches by 2 1/8. So let me just double check that that's right. I'm fairly certain I've got that at 6 1/4. I think it wants to be 6 inches, so I might have to just take a little bit off the top and the bottom if I remember rightly. Yeah, we'll do that when we stick it down. That's right. So last little bits that I want to do on here just before we actually finish this off is I've coloured a second one of the main ticket, and I've just cut that central bit out, and eventually we're actually just going to pop that one up to give a little bit of extra dimension and focus on that main panel, and I'll do that towards the end. And then the last colour that I've taken is my brown grey, and I've used the mid-tone. And I've gone all the way around. I like to do this on them because, again, it adds that drop shadow as if they are lifted off the paper. And all I've done is literally draw around the edge of the design. It's a great way as well if you've got any little tiny smudges where you've come out of the edge of the design. It's a good way of sort of hiding those as well. Now, it always goes on darker than it dries, so you can see it's a little bit darker at the top here than it is further down, but you just get that idea that they are actually raised off the surface and they're creating a shadow around it. And then I've cut it down to 2 1/8. Okay, we're going to trim the top and the bottom in a second, and I've got a matte layer to pop this on which measures 2 3/8 by 6 inches because I want this to go top to bottom. I just want the black around each side there. So we'll get that stuck down, and I'm going to do that with my tape runner, I think, just to get that in place. So again, I'm going to pop glue down each side, and this is going to be my main focal point for the card. And then I've left it longer deliberately so that I can get a really good finish on either end. So what I'm going to do now is try my best to sort of centre it on the black there. That's okay. Give it a good press, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I can just trim this bit now and get a really nice finish because I wanted this edge to edge rather than trying to line it up and get everything straight. Just concentrated on the 2 sides, and then I can trim that top and bottom edge and get a really nice finish there. Okay, so then I'm going to finish it off with a little bit of my ink, and I was supposed to do that before you stuck it down, Jan, because I've not done round the edge there, but I'm just going to go across the top. I'm going to have to try and do it from, yeah, we'll do it from there. I've just left that bit to show you, and it's better done before you actually put it on the card, and then we'll redo that bottom edge. So you can see there we've got that nice sort of vintage finish around the edge of it, and that's going to be my piece that's going to be the focal point for the card. So I'm just going to give that a little clean to get that off the desk there so that it doesn't create any problems with my card. And we'll move that bit to one side, and then I'll bring you in the rest of the card components. So I said I'd started out with a 6 3/4 inch square. Like I said, this has come from a shop bought 7-inch square pack, so the envelope is 7 inches, and I'm going to have it opening on a book fold like normal. And then I've done a little bit of matting and layering. So my black mat is 6 1/4 inches, and that's going to sit on top of the card. And then I've got a piece of the smooth stamping card again, at 6 inches square. And all I've done with that is I've taken my I've got like a compass point stencil here. I just pop that on there, you can see, and I've used my Distress Oxide ink in pumice stone, which is a really nice warm grey. So I've just used my brush and I've got that ready because I wanted the stamping to be the focus of the video. So that's all done and ready, and we're going to pop this onto the card in a second, but I want to do a little bit more to this one before we actually put it together. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, we're actually going to add another couple of layers. I started out when I was designing the card just like this, and it looked nice, but it did look quite plain, and I very quickly decided that there was too much brown for what I wanted. So what I did was have a rummage through my stash, and I knew somewhere I'd got a couple of dies that were like book pages, and this is from an old signature collection from Crafters Companion. It was from the Vintage Diary. It's called Page Edges, and I've used this one here to create like a little notebook page. So the die here just cuts out the edge, and you can make this then, you know, whatever. You could just have a little skinny piece, you could have a wider piece, and I thought that would look really nice sort of tucked underneath here. Now it did cover up some of my stenciling, but there is still some peeking out when we've finished. And then I've also used another stamp set from the stash here, and this one has got a postcard design on. So I've taken the postcard plus the stamp and the lines here and created a nice little postcard here. I've added a couple of the splats as if there was sort of a bit of an ink spillage, and then the little heart is from a different set. It's one of the sentiment sets that I've got, just to bring this, again, was done as a later thought to tie it in with the blue. Okay, so that's where we're heading with the flat pieces. So the book page is 5 inches tall by 3.5 inches, and I am just going to stick that on with my all-purpose glue. And I want that on the back. We're going to sort of build up the layers now. So I'm going to pop a little bit of glue on there and a bit on these edges here, just to make sure that it's all stuck down. And I want to pop that one sort of at an angle about there. That's about good. I can just see a little tiny bit of the stencil peeking out there, just using that as a marker. And then the postcard is 3 3/4 inches by 2 3/4. That was just the size of my stamp. Again, you can buy these as ephemera, so if you're not a stamper, you know, you can still access this kind of thing. And that one's going to slide under here as well. And again, I know now that I've covered up a lot of the stencil area, but it was just a background. There's still bits of it peeking out here and there. Okay, and then just before I actually fasten that down, I want to bring in some twine. A lot of you that follow me know that if I'm working with anything that's vertical, I like to do that cross part, and we've got it coming out here. But I thought what we'd do is just take some natural coloured twine, and I'm going to pop this around about 1.5 inches up from the top, and then we can just tie a knot in here. And we're not going to see a lot of this. Let me just chop that end off there. It is all sort of extra texture and decoration there. I'm just going to pop a little knot, and then I'm going to trim it down because this is actually all going into the background again. And I'm going to use a button on top of it and make it look as if the whole thing was threaded through eventually. So yeah, we're just going to get that straight. As I say, about, let's have a look, we've gone about 1 3/4 inches up from the top there, from the bottom of the card. Okay, and then I'm going to snip those little pieces off really close to the knot, because we're going to cover that eventually. So then I want to stick this piece over the top. So in order to stop that sort of rocking over the twine, I'm going to put some tape behind here. So I'm just going to grab my foam tape here, which is my big roll from Sticks 2. I'm going to take some off the edge here, and then on the back of this I'm just going to use my pencil and mark where the twine fits. So this is going to sit like so, and I'm just going to put a little line where that twine is, and then I'm going to leave a gap in the foam tape so that it will fit over the twine, and then we don't have that rocking motion when it goes over the top of it. So that's going to have the foam tape on, and I'm also going to put some across the bottom here. Because I've taken so much off the roll there, we'll do a bit here, and then I'll do a bit in that middle to sort of secure it. So you don't necessarily need as much. I always tend to put too much on. So that's my foam tape, and then we can get this piece ready. Take the backers off here ready, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the background to the card, and then we'll add this piece onto the design. So we'll just get all that off ready, pop that to one side, bring my card blank back in, and now that we've got that twine around it, I can pop this onto the card blank. Now I do have the twine behind here. You can lift this one up again if you want to, but I didn't want too much dimension because I do need to pop this one in the mail to my friend. So I'm going to go across here, and because it's quite a large area here, I can make sure that this is secure at either side of that twine. So we've got a much larger surface area that I can press this down at either side and make sure that we've got a good stick either side of the twine underneath there. Okay, so that's looking pretty good so far. And then now we're ready to pop this one on, and it should line up perfectly because we use that that measurement. And I've designed this to go from the bottom of that design all the way up to the top there, making sure that that runs parallel, and then we can get that one stuck in place. Okay, so all we've got then is our decoration, and I've got my little tub of tricks again. I've got my button, which we're going to disguise that knot with. I've got the piece that's going to go on the top of the ticket, and then my sentiment was in 3 pieces. I've just been through my stamp sets and chosen ones that made sense. So I've got just to say, have fun on your retirement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap over to the fine tip glue, and we're going to put these ones on the top section of the card. So I just want to run a little bit of glue on the back of here, and we're going to have a just a set, and I'm deliberately putting them at an angle so that I don't have to worry about getting anything straight, like so. And then this one, I was playing around with the placement for this one, but decided it actually looked best over the twine. So yeah, it is actually covering some of it up again. And I'm going to take some of the narrower foam tape for this one. So I have a roll equally as big. These are great. And I'm just going to take a smaller piece off there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of run this. I want it to overlap this part here. So I'm just going to pop the foam tape along the top and bottom, so that again we can run that twine in the middle of the gap here. So again, if we just take the backing off there, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on this end that's going to sit on top of the focal strip here, because that bit's going to reach the raised element. And then all I want to do is literally get this one along, and that twine should sit in the middle of there, so we're getting a nice sort of break in that line there. And then the last thing I'm going to do is pop my button on here, and I'm going to tuck that bit underneath, and then I'm going to use glue dots for this. I've created a little tiny bow with that same twine, and we're going to pop this one on here with the bow on top there. So I'm just going to grab some glue dots there, and I'm going to put one of them onto the knot to sit the button on. So again, just take that one off there and add it onto the knot there, and then we can put our button on top. And then the next one, I'm going to do the same, but I'm just going to roll it into a little ball this time because I want to hide it behind the bow here. So I want to pop it on the back of here like so. And then we can put this in the center to give the illusion that this is all one piece, that the twine's been wrapped around it, and then pop through the button as well. So again, just get that behind there, and then I'm just going to take my backing tape off that last bit of foam tape, and we can secure this just to sort of highlight that that central ticket. It just sort of lent itself, because there were two parts to it, I just thought it would lend itself to popping that bit up on some foam tape, and we've got that extra bit of dimension there. So we pop the glue away. You can see we're pretty much in that same ballpark there. The only thing that I've done in addition to that, as always, you know me with my Jan's gems, it's got to have gems on, and I had some lovely pale blue ones with like a, they've almost got like an aurora finish to them. These are from Dreamies, and I just thought they picked out that blue again just to tie it in and bring it all together. And again, I've just scattered them up through the sentiments to draw your eye to that sentiment there, and then I've stamped on the inside my sentiment where I can write my own message in here to the recipient there. So that's my card for today, using that lovely masking technique for my Stamp With Me tutorials here for the month of September. So I think there's only one more to go, which will be the week after, and then we're into October, and I think we're going to crack out the Halloween goodies ready. I've just ordered some new bits and pieces ready for October. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this today. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up for me. It does help the channel tremendously, and I will be back very soon with another tutorial for you. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye now.